We get to interview the #1 shark, the guy who likes royalties, the guy who's an early adopter. And some of these things he can't even do. Like he can't even do cannabis. He'll get into it. And when I say do, I don't mean consume it. I mean invest in it. But psychedelics is something he's in. You guys know about a company, MindMed. We're going to talk about it. But Kevin is just a hell of a guy. We've known him for many years. Very active, very smart, works with the biggest companies. One of his companies he works with in the crypto space, FTX. And without further ado, I want to introduce the #1 shark, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, we have a lot of chairs here, so I don't know. I don't know how we do this.
Well,
maybe
these two look good.
Yeah, these two look good. I like it. But just pretend we got whatever. Okay.
I just want to, before we start, somebody gave me a package of pink rolling papers. I like that.
Wow.
Cool.
Okay. Pink rolling papers.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, Blazy Susan. Let's give the name. Okay. So we are here at the Psychedelics first day. When did you first get into the psychedelic space?
About 3 years ago, I was here, actually right next door at the Soho Club, and a young guy came to me and said, "Look, I want you to give me a few $1 million to invest in psychedelics." I said, "Are you out of your mind? That's an illegal substance. It's Schedule I narcotic." He said, "No, I want to do FDA trials with it," and it was a very fascinating conversation because at that time everybody was trying to raise money for Bitcoin. It was very crypto oriented, and I really got interested, and I put a couple of guys with him to do some diligence on the whole thing. And Alex Kenjeev, who you've met,
yep.
One of the guys that works with me at Larry Ventures, and Alex rarely gets excited about anything. He's seen everything.
He's like a robot.
Yeah, and he came back to me and said, "Listen, boss, we got to own this thing. The potential here is huge." And he was right. I mean, the addressable market's in the hundreds of billions of dollars. At that time, it was very nascent. He was one of the first. Others came along too, Atai, Compass, and collectively, those companies have raised billions of dollars. But they're all still in stage 2 trial.
And so where is MindMed on the trajectory right now? Is it stage 2 trial or where?
The way I index these companies is that there's focus around psilocybin, there's focus around LSD, there's some derivative molecules being developed as well. To me, and everybody has their own opinion, when I index a sector, I try and mitigate my risk based on trials. In biotech medicine, the outcomes are unknown, so it's very binary. You can chase a molecule for 10 years, and in stage 3 you lose. And so you have to have multiple trials, and so I'd index them right now. I'm overweight MindMed, but I also have exposure to Compass and Atai because they're all doing things slightly differently, but they're all in stage 2. And the theory that you have to have in investing here is the minute one of them gets to stage 3 on any medicine, you're going to lift all the tides. You want multiple exposure. And then a couple of years after that, maybe 36 months later, when one gets awarded a medicine, Katie bar the doors for the sector.
Got it. So you're in this, I would say, relatively early, this space. Like, how did you decide I want to get into psychedelics early?
How many times in your investment life do you get to position yourself in a brand new sector, a completely brand new sector? I mean, never is the answer. Once in a lifetime if you're lucky. And this sector, and I'm not talking about cannabis right now, I'm talking about psychedelics as medicine, FDA approved trials, non-recreational use. Remember what happened back in the early 60s, Timothy Leary and that whole movement, overdosing LSD, caused this to be elevated to a Schedule I narcotic and put aside, even though there was lots of promising evidence that microdosing it could have some good attributes in terms of helping people with addiction, opioid addiction, alcoholism, anxiety, all these different massive markets. It was ignored. And then we've tried all these other drugs, pumping kids full of Ritalin and all this garbage, and we haven't explored this opportunity. And I think now we are. And so for me, it's okay. There's been nothing new for 30 years in mental health drugs other than just drugging people with more drugs. This looks more interesting. Let's put some dollars aside for this.
Got it. Now, we're going to go back. We're going to move out of psychedelics for a second, and we're going to go to cannabis. Cannabis, all right? So, Kevin, are you invested in cannabis companies, or what do you think about the cannabis space? You're from Canada, so you have a unique perspective, and I think the audience would really enjoy you sharing it.
Yeah. So let's talk about what cannabis is. Cannabis is a Schedule I narcotic. That puts it in a difficult place for institutional investors because it invokes the RICO statute. Let me explain how this works. If you have two states beside each other, one has legalized cannabis and the other hasn't, and you're a shareholder, this is a technical term, and somebody takes it across the border, you have aided and abetted transferring a Schedule I narcotic. That's about 23 years in jail. Not that interested in that outcome for me. And so I don't want to be the test case for that theory. And everybody says, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Well, if I don't have to worry about it, why don't we just get it off the Schedule I narcotic list? And there are actual examples of citizens who have been banned from the US for life for going to a cannabis conference in Arizona. And so, yes, they exist. This is bad. And so I represent institutional capital. We're always trying to put money to work. What I would have liked to have seen for the cannabis industry, because I've never been able to invest in it because of the Schedule I problem, is this. The potential for cannabis THC as a medicine, had they bifurcated the industry so that we went through the FDA trial process, not for recreational use, it would have brought hundreds of billions of dollars into this space. But there isn't a dime of institutional money in here. I know people say, oh, I know a guy at an institution, yada, yada, yada. I'm telling you, zero. At the sovereign level, zero. And the industry, in my view, screwed itself. It screwed itself. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, pounding the table at the senators in every state saying you can't legalize this, yada, 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 yada. Who's going to go against Mothers Against Drunk Driving? Nobody. And so you've got a lot of tension in this space that should have been resolved early on. I blame the industry for shooting itself in the foot. Recreational cannabis is great, but it's a nothing burger compared to what this would be if it was a medicine. And the potential of THC in small amounts or medicinal amounts being FDA trialed and then approved as a drug, that would have been interesting for institutions. And I think, frankly, and I look at markets like Ontario, as you mentioned, the most advanced, that business sucks. They don't allow them to brand anything. All of the registries are really hard to work with. So the people in Ontario simply buy it from their dealers at a 30% discount. That nothing's changed. And it's a miserable business. So that's not a great investment at all. And the PEs of those stocks have been crushed. You can't get me excited about that.
So your point is people in Ontario aren't going to the stores as much. They're going right to the direct source, their dealers, basically?
Yeah, it's cheaper, like a lot. The same thing in California. Same. There's plenty of examples of where the state has to get aligned with the market. Now, either you arrest all the dealers and throw them in jail like we've been doing forever, except that's a problem now because it's legal. So now you have to figure out the distribution channels. In Canada, they don't allow branding. So THC is THC. Whether it's in a gummy or an edible or you're buying it in smokable form, there's no differentiation. So the poor schmoes that are making that are selling a commodity and their margins are getting crushed. I don't find any of this very exciting as an investor. So, I mean, I think a conference like this industry should do some soul searching and say, how do we fix this? And you start by convincing the president to get it off the Schedule I narcotic list, and you bring in billions of dollars into it for both the medicinal and recreational side after you get it off the Schedule I narcotic list. That's cannabis. That's not the problem the psychedelics industry has. It still can attract institutional capital.
Yeah, so when is Big Pharma going to get in the psychedelic space?
I think Big Pharma is starting to look at it because you're trying to figure out outcomes on massive addressable markets. And the way I view it is, this is a personal opinion, but I look at this market. Atai, Compass, MindMed, they're going to have to merge because they need each another $200 million by the time they get this to a medicine. That's about $1 billion they've got to raise. It's much better if they combined all these trials together. In my view, these companies all have their own management. I know them all. We talked about this 2 years ago. I said, guys, there's so much dough to be raised here, but so much potential. We could get strategic into this thing. Let's merge them all together. That's not how they viewed it. So I own stock in all of them.
You own stock in all of them. And do you think it's going to be one winner or maybe a big merger of all three? Or
I think what happens is you've got...
Do we have some breaking news here?
No. You've got the LSD crowd, the microdosing crowd.
Okay.
and a lot of skepticism around that, but a lot of optimism too, depending on who you talk to. You've got the psilocybin crowd. Then you've got the alternative, molecule where you're modifying either of those, each trying to address different afflictions around mental health. There's a lot of anecdotal information coming out of the West Coast in the programming field, even though it's illegal. They're microdosing LSD, which I don't endorse, but it's obviously got the research crowd really interested in understanding how this works, and that's why those clinical trials are so important. But psilocybin also has potential as well. Plus, there's the whole counseling market where you take these drugs in addition to a counselor. So there's a lot of different use cases to this thing. But I'm far more constructive on psychedelics for institutional capital than I am for cannabis for reasons I just detailed. And, don't shoot the messenger. Everybody was so excited about this. Those stocks have come down 80% in PE since this whole thing started.
You're right. And I'll be remiss if I don't, we got Mr. Wonderful Community. You have you're in the wedding business. You're in what Shark Tank? What's your best business or whatever to mention here? People should go to. What's one of your favorites?
There's many favorites, but
which one do you want people to buy?
Here's what I've learned about this whole Shark Tank thing. Somebody walks out in the carpet. I've never seen them before. We give them $1 million. We have no idea what the outcome is going to be. We think we've got a winner, but we don't know. And then 2 years later, some ridiculous product that should have gone to zero ends up selling for like $100 million. And so I have a different view about it now.
Like the alarm company?
I just had dinner with him last night at Casa Tua. Jamie and I stayed together.
Jamie, yeah, Casa Tua. Thanks for the invite.
Well, it was business as usual with him. We get that's a joke because he wouldn't take my $600,000. I would have made $200 million.
Wait, you were going to get $600,000? That was a royalty deal?
Of course. Of course there's a royalty deal.
And you were going to invest, so we're talking about Ring, right? Ring?
Yeah.
You were going to invest $600,000. That $600,000 would have been $200 million.
Yeah.
And Kevin wouldn't have been here.
Listen, I never cry about spilt milk. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
But that whole thing. But there's other, think about a product like Base Pause. Maybe some of you remember this thing. A woman walks out on the carpet. She says, you take a swab and you stick it in your cat's orifice and you send it to me and I give you a DNA profile of when Fluffy's going to die. And I thought, that is so stupid. I can't even imagine. The test kit's $29 and you can get a new cat for $5. So, but I invested in it anyways because she had such a great track record as an entrepreneur. During the pandemic, who knew? There's 110 million cats.
Oh my God.
And in America, and every one of them got something up their rear end because that business has exploded.
Wow.
And I was wrong, but I own a nice chunk of it, so I'm pretty happy.
You own a lot. How many have you done? How many investments have you done?
Oh, I've been doing this for 14 years. The basic numbers are for Shark Tank. What you have to understand is in syndication, it's 100 million eyeballs. So you can take a product. The number one reason companies go out of business in venture is they run out of dollars to acquire customers. They go bankrupt advertising. But when you're on Shark Tank, you acquire customers for free. So you can take a marginal business and all of a sudden it's profitable on Shark Tank because it's in syndication in perpetuity. So we make a lot of money on things like, I don't know if you saw the recent episode, Banana Loca. You can now send a banana in your kid's lunchbox filled with peanut butter but unpeeled. How does that work? You stick a catheter up a banana and then press peanut butter into it. I thought, what a stupid idea. And Alex, backstage, said, I have to own that. And on the first night on Shark Tank, $2 million worth of it sold.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, all the big banana companies are calling and saying, hey, can we do a deal? Can we do a royalty?
So you're invested in it?
Yeah, Cuban and I bought Banana Loca. It's the stupidest idea I've ever seen.
Okay. It's crazy. Well, guys, if you don't follow Kevin on Instagram, Twitter, do it today. Follow him. Great updates. Banana Loca. See, we missed that one. Peanut butter, banana. It's no brainer. Making things more efficient and easier is the end. The game, right?
I think Lori taught me something. Stupid things made of plastic sell a lot.
Really?
That's it.
And you have your wines, right? Wines.
Oh, they're doing great.
Yeah. And we got MindMed. Check it out. And thank you, Kevin, for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.